Hi, everyone. Just closed up the weight room, so we're just giving folks a minute to go ahead and pop on. Um, so we'll probably get started in just a minute or so. All right. Looks like we're at a good number. So I'll kick us off. My name is Courtney Hill, and I'm the Director of Admissions at the Summer Science Program, or SSP, as our alums and community like to call it. We're excited that you're here to learn a bit about the Summer Science Program. It might be that you've started your application and you just want to know a little bit more information, or you might have just heard about us through my outreach to you a little bit earlier this month. And so thank you regardless for being here. I think all of you will take something from this because the first half will be, I would say, a little bit more oriented to people who haven't heard exactly about what SSP is all about. But the second half of the panel, we will have our alums here who are going to talk more about the program experience and what they enjoyed and any questions that you have for them. So you'll notice in the chat area that you have the opportunity to submit some questions. So just type your questions in the chat, and throughout the whole presentation and around halfway through, we'll kick off with the alums. And thinking about what kinds of questions to ask, Caesar will be around to answer some of the admissions-oriented questions while I'm presenting, and then we'll kind of switch off. But especially as we get closer to the alum section, it would be really awesome if you could start kind of centering your questions around the alum experience, since we have these wonderful alums here who are dedicating their time to share a little bit. So without further ado, I'll kick us. Oh, sorry. And let me turn it over to Caesar to introduce himself as well real quick.
Thanks so much, Courtney. Hi, everyone. My name is Cesar Contreras. I'm the admissions officer at SSP, and we're really excited to have you here. Hopefully, you learn a thing or two and get to know, what other alumni experienced during the program and after. So, really appreciate you being here, and feel free to ask any questions about the experiences. Thank you, Courtney. Turning it back to you.
Awesome. So I think we're seeing my screen. Is that correct?
You're good. Yes.
So, for big picture, thinking about what SSP is we are an immersive experience in experimental science that's evolved over 6 decades to meet the very specific needs of rising high school seniors who are talented, intellectually curious, and motivated in STEM. And so we specify these kind of attributes of high school students because, we know that the people who are coming into our program are passionate about science. Oftentimes, they're also looking for a challenge. And so we're kind of here to provide that challenge and provide that kind of 24/7, like, this is the life of a scientist. And so you'll see this kind of word challenge, and our alums will talk about it as well. And this word immersive, this is the kind of program where you are doing SSP and only SSP for the entire program, not because it's a rule. It is a rule, not just because it's a rule, but also because honestly, there isn't that much time outside of the activities that we have planned for you and also some of the academic components. So that's something to keep in mind. We are very intentionally going to keep you occupied and keep you in that life of a scientist for the entire duration of the program. And also some big picture things are, you can just look at our name to kind of understand what's going on. So we are, of course, offered in the summer. All of our programs are in areas of science, and we have a few of those that we'll talk about. And then we are a program. So by program, we are not a school, and we are not a camp. So by school, I mean that we are not a program that's offering academic credit for the work that you are doing, because we are centered around essentially a research project. So rather than doing something that's strictly coursework, you do have some kind of lecture-oriented pieces, but it's there to help supplement your understanding of the project that you're working on. And that research is really the goal of what you're trying to do, is complete that start to finish. And then the other aspect of program that I just mentioned is that we're not a camp. So if you're looking for kind of getting your feet wet in science, it's not exactly that sort of program. We're going to kind of throw you into the lake rather than getting your feet wet, and give you this challenge that maybe you haven't found in your home setting, but in a way that's kind of more, I would say, more fun, more rewarding than what you find in the school setting, because it's really hands-on work and you're really doing an actual project, not just learning about things in the abstract and you're like, what's the purpose? Everything makes sense about what you're learning and why you're doing it. We talked about we've existed since 1959. So we have that decades-long history. We're having you at the program on a college campus for a period of 5 weeks or 35 days. And your campus program will have 24 to 36 participants. And all of this kind of adds up to definitely a lot of alums in our community that have joined us over these past years. So 3,700 to be specific. And that's another kind of unique piece about SSP is you don't just leave SSP and that's all you do. You're probably going to be engaged in some way in the community, perhaps for the rest of your life. Many folks are, because we have annual events every single year where you can get to interact with people from your year, from past years. Um, and it's just a really, really robust community. It's kind of, this is your first step into it, but it's not something that really ever ends, which is really nice to have, especially as you're kind of going into the college scene. And then we do have 8 faculty members per program. So that will be 4 TARAs who are college students to help you through the academic and non-academic components of the program. We have 3 PhD holding teaching faculty who are there to guide you through the project. And then we have 1 site director on site as well, who is there to manage your health and safety and make sure the program is flowing the way that it should. So those 4 program topics I mentioned are astrophysics, biochemistry, bacterial genomics, and synthetic chemistry. And this is one of the first things you'll want to think about when you're going to apply is which of these makes the most sense for you. In astrophysics, you are tracking a near-Earth asteroid, and you're modeling and creating a formula for its path. In biochemistry, you are designing a fungal enzyme inhibitor to prevent essentially fungus from growing. So you're designing this kind of ball and chain model here. In bacterial genomics, you are subjecting a bacteria to stresses of various kinds, and then you're monitoring its evolution through time in terms of how its genetic code is looking. And then in synthetic chemistry, you are essentially designing a macrocyclic catalyst from scratch. So those are the kind of big areas, but we'll talk about how you can take a deeper dive to determine which of those attracts you the most. And we also know, and we like to remind you that we are not looking for you to know that you necessarily want to do these academic areas in order to pursue them. This is kind of like an example of how you can get some practice skills going in these areas and have this model research project. And some people end up being drawn to that exact science, and some people just kind of take away some skills like wet lab skills or physics skills. Python is a big part of Astro, so some of these sub skills are something you can take away regardless of whether you want to do that area or not professionally. Outside of those things, you are going to have guest lecturers coming onto your campus. They're going to give you something adjacent to what you're learning. They're going to have dinner with you. They'll give you an interaction opportunity with them, similar to kind of a networking environment. And then we also have programming on site, things like, talent shows, things like, these folks are playing table tennis. So there's those normal kind of pre-college interactions that you'll have on your campus with your colleagues, essentially, your peer students. And then you're also going to be going on a few field trips throughout the entire 5 weeks, where you're getting the opportunity to go a little bit further off site and do something like go to the beach or perhaps go to a lab or something engaging in that way. An important piece to us also is our financial aid. So many of you asked about this in the questions that led into the session. So we are need blind. So what that means is we don't take into account your actual whether you do or do not need aid in whether we are granting you admission or not. And we also meet 100% of calculated needs. So that means whatever the difference is between our cost of attendance and what you're able to pay according to our financial aid calculations, we are going to provide you that funding, including the funding to get to the campus, including all expenses. So there's nothing else hidden or extra that you're going to need to pay. And so if you're looking for more specific figures about what that means, we provide these examples as generalities. What we tend to see is that household incomes below around 75,000 tend to attend at absolutely no cost. So we're going to fly you to the campuses. We're going to cover everything associated with the program. While household incomes around $140,000 and below with typical expenses and all of that tend to attend at least a discounted rate. And there's a little bit of a sliding scale between those figures where the closer you are to that $75,000 figure, the more likely it is that you would attend for free. If you're receiving aid, we will cover your transportation to the campus as well. And so that's there's not going to be that again hidden fee. And then for a small number of students, we are also offering a $3,000 stipend that you receive on completion of the program. This is typically for students who are already receiving full aid and who are contributing in some substantial way to their household. And really, that money is helpful or necessary to the family. So those, there are a small number of those, and you apply for that after you're admitted and after you apply. And then in thinking about whether this is a program that makes sense for you, we'll go to the website in just a moment. So you can really, that's, I think, the place you really want to focus on to help you narrow down. But I think these are some key questions to be asking yourself. And if several of these or all of these or some of these resonate with you, I think you should really consider taking a deeper dive and considering applying to the program. Are you interested in science and science research? And do you want to know what it feels like to be a science researcher? Thus far, you've only kind of had the opportunity to engage in research in that classroom setting. And this is going to give you kind of the next level up where you get to see what it feels like to actually be doing science research. And a lot of people find, and I personally found, because I ended up doing research when I was in college, that this is a far more rewarding experience than just hearing about science in the classroom. So maybe you're already starting to feel that spark in the science classroom. You're like, that's interesting, but this isn't exactly how I want to learn this. This gives you kind of that opportunity to take a step in that direction. We also did talk about challenge and increasing your sense of independence and working towards a goal. So you will be perhaps for the first time away from your family, away from your home community, and we will be purposely kind of giving you challenges academically that are like slightly beyond your personal ability, like your personal comfort level. And that comfort level is different for everybody, but that challenge is on purpose because we want you to really increase your confidence when you're going into the research setting in college. So if that's something that is exciting to you, the idea that you're going to kind of be pushed to a level you haven't been pushed before and also feel a lot more resilient before you're in an environment like college where there are grades and there are things like that, that's another kind of benefit. So that's an aspect of preparation for college. And then beyond those things, also, you'll get that experience of living like you would at a college with people who are also high achievers, people who are also passionate about science. And also in the app process, you'll get that experience of applying for college, that aspect of filling out essays, that aspect of recommendation letter, and like that, that nervousness you feel when asking a teacher, do you think you could write me an eval? You'll get practice in doing that again before there are the stakes involved in college. So it's definitely a good warm-up opportunity for all of those things. And again, I talked about this briefly just now, but this might be the first time that you feel like you're in a setting where you are being challenged and you're around a whole bunch of other people who want to be there, who want to do the science, who like are excited about this. You're not going to feel like if you ever felt like a nerd or felt like an outsider, like you're going to be around a lot of other people who kind of have felt that way before as well. So let's take a look at the website real quick. I'll just point out a couple different areas that we really recommend taking a deep dive on. Can you guys see the website? All right, great. So this is summerscience.org or ssp.org. Both of those will get you here. And the key places I want to direct your attention to in getting to learn a little bit more if some of the things that I've said are attractive to you are especially two key areas, the explore subcategory here and the apply subcategory. So in explore, there are some basic informational things I would say here at the top. And thinking about that first step that I mentioned of determining what project you want to do, these are extremely helpful for doing that. So you can see the different programs listed here, and then by clicking on the project, you can see exactly what it entails, what some of those practice skills you'll get in are. As I mentioned, like there are subcomponents that you'll get to practice regardless of what project you're doing. So you can see the practice areas kind of here that go into making the project possible. So there's a program page like this for each program that is really helpful to determining which of these might be of interest to you. And then also the if you want to know where we're operating, and there will be some questions about that on the application, here's a page that details exactly where the campuses are, the dates that they're operating to help you better inform the pieces that you're submitting in your application. And then the blogs are also kind of interesting as well. The students fill those out during the program, and they're a good model to see kind of how the day-to-day life is. And then the last thing I want to draw your attention to is the apply subcategory. So of course, the place you're going to want to apply to the program is here. So you'll begin your application by clicking this orange button. And then also it's possible you found this opportunity from this list, but this is where all of the up-to-date events are going to be posted and are constantly updated. And you can see the recording for the December webinar and some other cool things. The Reddit AMA is actually happening right now. So if you're on the AMA and we're not replying, that's probably because we are here. So that's something you can participate in pretty much immediately after this call as well. Other pieces, the FAQ are also really, really helpful. And so I recommend checking that out. Pretty much anything that you're going to want to be thinking of at first is going to be in this FAQ page. So I would spend at least like 5 to 10 minutes taking a deep look at this before you have any questions or anything that you want to bring to the Discord or things like that. So that's the kind of summary pages that I want to point your attention to in choosing SSP. And I'm going to turn it over to Caesar, who will give us a little bit of a preview of the application itself and some tips about how to navigate that.
Thank you so much, Courtney. So I'll be switching over to share my screen. All right, perfect. Does everyone see my screen? Awesome. So we're gonna pretty much follow through the admissions webpage. So as Courtney mentioned, this is where you'll find the application registration, as you see in this orange button. However, if you've already submitted an application registration, know that we also have included a link right here in the case that you've already set that up. The way the process works is first you have to submit an application registration. It's a very basic form. Pretty much you're asking us to set up your account, and I'll show that in a second. After that, we'll pretty much process it, make sure that everything's looking good, that you're eligible, and then go ahead and either accept or deny if you are not eligible for SSP, depending on your age, your graduation year, and the coursework prerequisites. So if you go ahead and click on the application registration, that will take you to the form that I'm talking about, the application registration. Again, please refrain from submitting more than one form at a time. You only need to submit it once. If you have any issues with your application or you want to make any changes, edits to your, like demographic information, your emails, or you're having access issues, just send us an email and we're more than happy to help you with that. That's something that could be done on our end. So just make sure to submit this once. And after that, reach out to us if you want, change your program, if you want to change your name, email, anything like that can be done by ourselves. Now, when it comes to this form, just make sure that you're entering information wherever there's a red asterisk. I do want to point out that for the email, please make sure that you're using preferably a personal email. A lot of school emails will have filters or blockers, and our confirmation emails and other following emails might end up in a spam or trash folder. Inclusively for Gmail accounts, those have really filters that will send a lot of emails to spam or trash. So you can either add admissions@ssp.org to your contacts, or just here and there check your spam and trash folder to ensure that our emails are not ending up there. Additionally, when it comes to graduation year for SSP 2025, note that we're looking at a graduation year of 2026, unless you're attending school in the Southern Hemisphere. In that case, we're looking for a graduation date of around November, December 2025. If your graduation year is 2027, or if it's 2025, mid 2025, then unfortunately you're not ineligible. And you could definitely send us an email for more information. Now, when it comes to the research project, you are able to only apply for one research project. For this year, we have added a secondary project preference, just in the case that you're interested in another project. It may or may not be used, but it's something cool to add in the case that you have another project that you're interested in as well. That will be provided once you have the whole account set up. And then lastly, you will input the prerequisites. Now, when it comes to prerequisites, we understand that some students have, coursework that is not named after the prerequisites. However, if your classes cover the topics located right here, then go ahead and click on them and make sure that either you have a teacher input like a list of coursework and topics that's been covered so that we know that you're eligible. So for example, some classes might be integrated, so you might have science all 4 years, not necessarily chemistry, physics, or other. A lot of times we have like integrated sciences that have those classes for the span of your high school career. So again, so long as you're covering the topics through your high school prep coursework or college classes, just make sure to either give us your transcripts or again, get a recommendation from a science or math teacher that can let us know that you're covering those topics. And once you've completed all of that, this is what it will look like. You'll go ahead and click on submit. Now, it will take a bit of a second. However, you'll know that's been successfully submitted once you see the screen. In addition to this screen, you'll also receive a confirmation email to whatever email you input it into the form itself. If you do not hear from us in a while, definitely again, send us an email and we'll help you out with that. Now, you'll be receiving the confirmation email through that the email that you input it. The first email you'll receive will be a confirmation email. And then after that, if it's been processed successfully, so you're eligible and we see that you're able to apply, we'll go ahead and send you another email with an invitation button to actually go ahead and set up your account. And what that will look like is this. So let me sign out to show you what it will look like from the get-go. So when it comes to the software that we're using, know that the sign up and the sign in webpage are the same page. So it looks like you're signing in, like you've already set up your password. Know that if you have not set up an account, you just have to go ahead and use the same web page, put in your email address that you entered. So use the same exact address you entered on the application registration form and go ahead and click on continue. Once you've clicked on continue, it will know that this is your first time on this web page and it'll take you to a password setup page. So don't freak out if you see this sign in web page. It's also the same place where you're able to sign up. However, I've already created and set up my account, so it'll take me directly to put in my password. And as you probably saw and got a peek of, this is the application itself. So make sure that when you're signed in, once you've successfully set up your account, make sure that you have the checklist. Sometimes we have issues where you're not able to see the checklist. So if you just see this top visual up here and you do not have a checklist with all the items, so application form, transfer request, etc., we would highly recommend you first clean your cache and your cookies. You can also disable them or even easily go into incognito or private mode if you're using Microsoft Edge. A lot of times that will resolve this issue. But again, if you don't see this checklist and you've gone through those things, the process of cleaning your cookies and cache and going into incognito mode, send us an email. We'll go ahead and troubleshoot that and help you out. Now, when it comes to this application account, there's not a whole lot to do. The main place where you'll have all your action items are in this checklist itself. But we'll do a quick run through. Another thing I want to bring up is that it does have a notification saying that you have 3 forms to review. So that will be the application form, transfer request, and essays. Know that you have more items required. So in order to complete your application or kind of consider your application, done, completed, you would need to have completed the following items: the application form, the transfer request, which includes your 9th and 10th grade or previous 2 years, coursework and grades. We also require at least 2 recommendations, as you see here. You'd also have to have completed your essays. And lastly, your current year grades or progress report. So long as you have these items completed, you can consider your application done. Of course, there's other optional items that you can complete, such as the third optional recommendation. You also have the option of having an additional transfer request. So this is in the case that you transfer schools and your current school does not have your transcripts from your ninth grade or your first year of secondary school, high school. Or you can also use this if you have college coursework. So perhaps you have dual enrollment, it does not show up on your high school transcripts. This will also be a place to upload them or have request them from your school. However, a lot of colleges might require like parchment, so you can also send those through parchment. And then if you're an international applicant, you of course have the option of uploading and entering your English proficiency results as well. Additionally, again, you have the optional upload school profile, the secondary project preference that I talked about, and the supplementary material. So a quick tip about the supplementary material is it could be anything that would you like that you believe adds to your application. So examples that we've seen are arts, pictures of hobbies, certificates. So there's a lot of things that you can add. It does not have to have a theme. You can kind of combine different materials or files. Just keep in mind that readers will probably have 1 or 2 minutes to actually engage with it and read it and review it. So there's various formats that you can add to supplementary material. Just keep that in mind. Now we're going to dive real quick into the application form. So I can kind of show you around and give you some tips on what that looks like. So the application form consists of various parts. So just make sure that you're filling out each and every one of them. A lot of times when you're not able to submit it and it provides you with like a notification saying you haven't completed it, it's because you didn't enter something within the asterisk. Note that for all the forms, including the application form as well, it automatically saves. So there's no need to submit, and we actually would recommend you to not submit until you've pretty much finalized everything. You've gone through it, you reviewed it a couple of times. Then that's when you go ahead and click on submit. So just make sure that when your last page or the confirmation page, that all the other parts are complete. Because once you go to the confirmation page and click on submit, that will pretty much send it to us to process. It'll be more difficult to go back and edit. Now, keep in mind that when it comes to this stop notification, that's just text. So it's not based off of your date of birth. It's pretty much text just letting you know that you do have to be at least 15 years old and not 19 yet once the program starts and ends. Now, the other difficult part when it comes to application is the household information. And the reason why it's a bit confusing is because each time you add a household, you have the option of adding to parents or guardians. So just make sure that you're not entering one parent or guardian more than once. Even if you have 2 households, you just have to put them on one household and then the other for the second parent or guardian. Again, it's a bit confusing as you see here. This is parent 1 and 2 for household number 1. However, if you add another household, it'll also give you another 2 spaces. So just try your best to fill it out. Again, if you follow that rule of thumb, do not put a parent or guardian more than once, you'll be great. Now that's the application form itself. We're going to go into the transcript request. And then if you see here, once you've kind of saved the application like you didn't complete it, you'll still be able to continue it. So going over to the transfer request, this is pretty much, we'll set up an email that will send either to your counselor or to your recommender in the case of the recommendation request. The confusing part about the transfer request is that if you've not completed the application yet, it will not have your school listed here. So let's say that you do not see your school listed within this drop-down menu. Simply go ahead and click on select sending school, put in your school, your counselor email, and then additional comments if you like. Preferably, you would have already asked your counselor or your administrator at school for your transcripts and for your recommendations, but you may also add additional comments. Know that when you add additional comments, it will show up on the email that gets sent to them. So this can be a thank you letter or, please, send in my transcripts or anything you would like. Know that it will show to them. And then, of course, if you do have your school on the drop-down menu, it will not let you click on select sending school. So if you've already submitted your application, you will have to select the school from the drop-down menu. So if you don't see any schools again, go ahead and click on select any school and input your school. If you do see your school within the drop-down menu, then go ahead and select the school that you're requesting transcripts for. And that pretty much wraps up a review of your application account. Know that there's also other parts. There's official notes, for example. So when we do send messages to you, there'll be two places where you'll be able to access it. It'll go through your email as well as the official notes right here. So we preferably would like you to answer any messages through official notes, but you're also able to send us an email or reply to them by replying directly to the message that gets sent to your email. And that pretty much, again, wraps up the application review. We're not going to be transitioning over to the panel. So thank you to Alumni for coming back and visiting us and giving us some of your time. Like Courtney mentioned, we would appreciate it if you ask questions within the chat, preferably about their experience or after SSP. When it comes to admissions questions, I'll answer those through chat, but you're also welcome to visit our Reddit or send us an email. So for the panel, we would really appreciate it if you ask questions about the program and as this is a very special opportunity to kind of connect with alumni and kind of get some insight from them. So thank you very much for being here. Could you please, I think we'll start off with Mateo. Could you please let us know what program, campus, and year you attended SSP and where you're from?
All right. Hey, everyone. My name's Mateo. I'm from Oak Park, Illinois, and I attended SSP in the summer of 2022 in astrophysics at New Mexico.
Can go next. So my name is Bisan. I'm from Michigan. I attended SSP in biochemistry at Indiana University this past summer in 2024.
Hi, I'm Arav, and I attended SSP at Georgetown in genomics this past summer.
Hi, my name was a biochemistry participant at Purdue University this past summer, and I'm an international student from Kyrgyzstan.
Hi, I'm Jenny Wong. I attended the synthetic chemistry program at SWASU this past summer, and I'm from Frisco, Texas.
I'm Darnell. I attended the GCSU astrophysics program this past year, and I'm from Georgia.
Awesome. Well, some of our questions are here and available in the chat. And so one question that was asked early is, what do you do in your free time outside of the program? Like, what are some of the non-academic components of the program that you enjoyed?
I can answer that. So we were in DC, which is really nice because we got access to a lot of really nice field trips. So we went to the zoo, we went to the aquarium, we went to a concert, like an orchestra concert, and that was all really interesting. But I think we also get a good amount of downtime each week to just explore the city you're in or just hang out with friends. Like we had a ping pong table in like a local hall at Georgetown, and we would go during passing time or during free time to just hang out there and play ping pong. And whenever we'd get back, so usually lights out for us was around 12, and we would get back around 10. So we would have like those 2 hours to hang out in the common room. And our common room was it was fun because everyone is in there usually. So yeah, you do get a good amount of time to socialize with other people.
Yeah, I can also add on that question. So for our dorm, the common room, we had like a pool table, a foosball table, and like a ping pong table. So we would play during that downtime. So once we like finished our P sets, we would go back to the dorm, and our time we had a be in our dorms was 11. So we would usually be back by 10. So we would have like that hour. And we would also play like board games. We played card games. And we often had like ramen nights where we just talked and ate ramen.
I can add on as well. So we West Lafayette was pretty dead during the summer. It's a really college town and it's quite rural, but we still had access to the town like on the weekends. And despite a lot of things being closed, it was really fun because all your friends are with you. You can go out and try new food, go shopping in some places. I also really like that we had, I think, three cohorts on the Purdue campus, and we were all in the same dormitory, and we had this like basement with a bunch of games and like pool tables and tennis. So we all played there. We all interacted within the different cohorts. It was pretty fun downtime each night.
Yeah. Another theme uh, of the sort of questions is like your interaction with the faculty who are on the campuses. We talked about there's some rigor involved. So do you get the opportunity to receive one-on-one support? And like, did you feel like you were decently well connected to your academic faculty? I would talk about both maybe TA, RAs, and the teaching faculty.
I can take this one. So, I would definitely say that the connection that you have with the faculty, for me at least, was less formal than I expected it to be. You're in the group with all the participants. You go to lectures every day, and you're in the lab. You have all the support from the faculty. You have the three professors who give you the lectures in the morning, and the TAs are with you in the lab. But also for dinner, you're kind of mixed up. So every week you have dinner with a different faculty member, and it's really just a way for you to get to know the faculty a little bit more. They come with you on field trips, and then also the TAs live with you in the dorms. So for me, by the end of the program, my TAs were kind of like older siblings to me. They always give you advice, and sometimes when the girls would hang out in the dorm at night before we go to bed, like our TAs would stop by and have a chat with us. So it's really less formal than you think it is. They're always there to support you. They're not going to judge you for not knowing something. And any questions that you have, they're always open to answering them.
I can add on a little bit. Another nice thing that SSP really prioritizes is how well connected you are in your group, because during the program, you are taking on a very challenging research project. And uh, during the first week of the program, our mentors kind of likened it to trying to drink out of a fire hose. You're getting a lot of information all at the same time, really quickly, and you're trying to pick up as much of it as you can. And that can be daunting at first, but your mentors and your peers and even some of the support team that's like on campus with you really does their best to make sure that you are learning as much as you can and that you feel well connected to your community. I know during my time at the program, we had our sort of program guide on campus do one-on-one meetings with us every week to check in, make sure that we were doing okay, that we were feeling connected to our peers and our teammates and who we were working with, that we had that opportunity to connect with our mentors and really just make sure that we were enjoying the program and really enjoying SSP and really connecting with the people there, because that's one of the most important parts about SSP, the people that you get to connect with and what they get to teach you for the duration of the program.
Darnell, I saw you on mute. Do you want to add anything to that?
I was basically going to say the same thing. They do a really good job of making sure you're supported throughout the program. Um, I do remember a lot of times, like, I would be confused after some of the lessons. So I would go and ask a TA or a professor to re-explain a concept or help me figure out a mistake I was making. And a lot of times I'd even ask my peers. So no matter what year, there will be enough support for you.
Did you all have any favorite guest lecturers, any memorable guest lecturers?
Yeah, so at Indiana University for biochem, one of the professors, Matthew Bachman, he was a biochemistry professor at Indiana, and he came in and gave us a guest lecture about his research with yeast, and he kind of partnered with a bunch of different breweries around the country and kind of just figuring out ways to kind of tie those two together. So like yeast and beer. And that was really, really interesting. I know that at IU, that was our favorite guest lecture. So it's really nice because the guest lectures are not directly tied to the research that you're doing. But for example, the guest lectures are catered to the specific program. So all our guest lectures for biochem were from biochemistry professors. So it was really cool just to see what other professors were doing in their work. Yeah.
I think for our program, one of our most fascinating guest lectures was this professor who uh, kind of his talk focused around the extent of the known universe and kind of focused on like sizes of different elements of the universe, talking about how far current research has gone into the observable universe and then what might lie beyond that and the science behind what the end of the universe might look like or the possibility of parallel universes, which was a really interesting talk to see something that usually is just seen in science fiction, how it might actually be explored in current research. And we also got to learn that this professor actually was a mentor of Neil deGrasse Tyson, which was a really cool tidbit to learn midway during his talk. So fascinating guy with a really interesting topic. And we all left that day kind of amazed.
Yeah, I remember a couple lectures, but I think one that really stands out was there is a professor who his entire lecture wasn't really about academic stuff, which was what most of the lectures were about. He just kind of talked about his life story and how he used or how he like overcame certain adversity that he faced, like whether it was quarantine, whether it was being really far away from his family during, difficult times. And he used like art and he used, just making art to kind of deal with a lot of the stuff that he was dealing with. And it was really refreshing because obviously we're all going into college next year. That's a very stressful time, and the program's very academically intense. So having a kind of more chill lecture was really nice, and he was really funny and a really kind person, and it was just nice to talk to him afterwards.
And thank you so much for all these answers. I think some students are really interested in kind of like the social aspect of SSP. I know there's a like have a team of three. Um, is there art like how do you guys enjoy like the social aspect of SSP? Was it something formal, informal? How do you like that?
I can start this. Like I just actually recently met up with certain alums from my campus in New York because a couple of them flew over to New York, and I live in Connecticut, so I don't live too far away. So I would say that you genuinely do make. That's actually my number one concern going in SSP. I was kind of worried it was gonna be super formal and super uptight, but everyone there was super duper nice, and like you just when you go through something like SSP together with a lot of people, you naturally form bonds, and you're gonna find people you really like, and no one there was ever super selfish. Everyone was a team player, and everybody tried to help other people, and it was super collaborative. In our groups of three, I would say that each lab station, at least in my program, worked really well together, and I think it was a really good academic experience. But it was also more than that. I learned more socially than I did academically, and I think you make like genuine connections with a lot of people.
Backing off of that, SSP did a really good job helping you build those connections. I still have a lot of people from SSP that I talk to probably just about every day. Just last week, somebody from my cohort had come down to Georgia and we met up and talked about, things that have happened since SSP. So like it does a really good job of building those social connections, whether it be like with your roommates, with the people in your research group, or making sure you're with somebody new every day at dinner. They really make sure that you guys build these connections.
One thing I think it's also important to add is like the longevity of these connections that you make. I still actively, 2, 3 years after the program, not only stay connected with a lot of my close friends from SSP. I mean, I just last semester got coffee with one of my teammates from the program who came to New York to visit, and we got to catch up. But also, after you complete SSP, you become a part of this huge alumni network, which allows you to connect with so many people. And one of the most amazing things has been now, kind of in college, connecting with more and more SSP alumni from other programs and getting to meet them. I mean, even recently during this year, I've kept meeting new people at my university who also were part of SSP, whether in my year in a different program or a different year, and getting to learn of their experience and get to connect over that shared experience of SSP. It's really amazing how this program gives you those connections and that group of people that you can really get advice from and connect with for life.
Mateo, just since you're our resident 2022, are there any at this stage in college, like any takeaways that when you look back on it, you're like, oh my gosh, this actually was really helpful in navigating the college experience or made me feel more prepared? Any kind of like takeaways in that regard for you?
Yeah. Um, so I think there's two parts that would be good to address here. And the first would be for the admissions process. Since I know a lot of people considering to apply to SSP are also actively thinking about college, and even uh, after the program, a lot of the alumni, a lot of my cohort like talked about, okay, next up is college. How do we face this? And what I found in terms of how helpful SSP was for the college admissions process, even just applying to the program is a huge step forward to feeling prepared and ready for applying to college, because the experience you get with connecting with professors and learning how to ask your teachers for a recommendation, how to plan out your essays and write a good personal essay. All of those steps were fantastic practice for actually applying to college and getting to do that all over again, just at a larger scale. And the awesome thing about SSP is that uh, that experience of applying really has a direct connection. I mean, uh, so many of the components for applying to SSP match what you're doing when applying to college. So by the time you reach the college admissions process, you've already had basically one go at this. And you've gotten all that experience from applying that now allows you to kind of say, okay, I've defined, some of my interests, some of what I'm passionate about. Now, how do I just change how I write that so that it fits this process of applying to college? And then there's the aspect of how SSP helps you for college. And I really think um, the level of rigor at SSP and the way that you kind of learn at SSP, the way that you learn how to pick up things quickly and find the most important piece of information and collaborate effectively. Those components of SSP have been some of the most helpful uh, things that I've learned and then applied to college, because so much of SSP in terms of the way that you work together with your team and with your peers to tackle these problems and how those are your main resource. That mirrors a lot of what college is like, where you're also collaborating a ton. So SSP ends up being this amazing kind of first step for learning how to tackle difficult challenges with peers, how to work effectively to take on a problem, and how to learn as much as you can and distill information really quickly. And it's a great resource now in college, getting to apply all those skills I learned at SSP again and again.
Thank you, Mattel. To kind of follow up with that, for the rest of all the panel, is there something that you took away from the program, like looking back, like this, like, this was a breakthrough, or do you feel like you grew in a certain way? Like, is there anything that you took away from the program afterwards, looking back now? Not necessarily, academic, it can be academic, but anything that you perhaps learned, or like an area that you grew after going through the program?
I think for me, I definitely learned a lot about just going through a challenging process. Like SSP is a lot harder than anything that I did in school, for sure. I don't know if other people can relate to that or not, but it was never like overwhelmingly hard, which is really nice. Like there was a good amount of support, and I think that just going through something like that was really beneficial to me in general, just because it kind of teaches you to overcome challenge, try to do it by yourself and with your peers. Because while you have TAs and you have professors to help you, you really kind of every your research project is very like tailored towards you, which is surprising considering like there's 8 groups at least in genomics that are doing similar research, but it ends up being really different from everybody else's. So you're incentivized to talk with your group more, than kind of go to TAs, go to professors, and while they're there to help you, I think having that aspect of collaboration and just challenge and overcoming that helped me grow personally.
If I could add on, also as an international student planning to apply to US universities, I've always been really anxious about how I'm gonna live like halfway across the world from my home. But going to SSP in the US, persevering through that jet lag and like homesickness, it definitely like calmed me down a bit. Also the fact that I was able to form really good friendships and um relationship with my professors, it definitely like made me realize that I will be okay at college.
For me, at least, I would definitely say that the most beneficial experience that SSP kind of granted me was this idea of being okay with not knowing. Um, I think everyone that I met at SSP, they were probably one of like some of the smartest people I've ever met. And it's really intimidating to go into an environment where everyone's very high achieving. But the one thing that you'll realize is because SSP has no grades, you're really doing this because you're passionate about the subject and you want to learn and grow. I think SSP gets you in that critical period where you're applying to college and you're thinking about how competitive and how demanding college is going to be. But you kind of have to take a step back and realize that if you're always trying to get higher results than other people, you're not really learning and growing. And I think the one thing that brings everyone at SSP together is they're doing this because they want to learn more. And you can go, and everyone is going to struggle at some point. Some participants might be struggling in one aspect, whether it be with problem sets or in this certain experiment, and then a week later, you're going to be doing fine in your experiment, and someone else is going to be struggling. So everyone kind of gets a turn with struggling, and you have everyone that's there to support you throughout the process.
Um, we we started to talk a bit more in our admissions process about the like day-to-day schedule. So can folks talk about like what kind of proportion of hours you spent on academic components? Like what was your general day like? Not talking about like 8 to 10 because the hours are going to vary per campus, but what is the kind of framework of your week and the framework of your day in a general sense?
Yeah, so I would say that so out of the 7 day week, for us, at least at genomics, we had one field trip day. So that was usually Wednesday for us, where we would pretty much spend most of the day out at a field trip and we'd maybe do a little bit of academic work on that day. And then on Saturday and Sunday, we would still have lab time, but we would also get breaks. So like for example, on Saturday, we would have I think like 4 or 5 hours to explore the DC area. So we would have like 2 or 3 days worth of breaks from the lab, which is necessary. You can't be working all the time. But when it comes to the academic portion, I would say on those academic days, so like on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, we would spend probably, I would say a good couple of hours, like 10, 12 hours in doing academic work. And we'd get breaks throughout the day for sure. And I know that different programs are very different when it comes to timing. Like I know Astro is different because they need to be out late to explore the sun or explore the stars. But for us, it was pretty scheduled. Like each day would look pretty similar when it comes to like hours. Obviously, what we did was different. But we would have built-in breaks and we would have break days too.
For Astro, it was pretty similar. Um, on Saturdays, we had kind of half days where half of it was academic and the other half where it was kind of a break, and we'd be able to go into the town, um, explore the stores, stuff like that. And then Sundays were our off days where we usually spent resting after a long week. Um, but other than that, on the other days, it was pretty structured as well. Unless you had observations at night, then you would stay up a little later. But it was usually pretty structured where you would have lessons, then lunch, then lessons, then a break before dinner, and then you would have work time after that to work on like your research project and problem sets and stuff like that. But you still did have a pretty good amount of time to interact with your friends and socialize outside of just that.
Yeah, at SimChem we had a similar like 7 day schedule, but we would have field trips on Wednesday, and then guest speakers on Thursday with break on Sundays. Uh, our day schedule would be like mornings would be going into the lab. Afternoons, we would have our lectures. And then after that, we would work on our P sets or do our research papers.
Yeah, there were definitely days where we would work like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. or maybe even later. But there's definitely breaks for sleep, like for meals, you'd have about an hour for you to break that you can rest and spend with your friends. But even without breaks, you're still always constantly working around your friends and teammates. And because that environment is so supportive, and fun, I think it alleviates the stress a bit, even if you're constantly working.
Um, I think an additional question that might be close to the end, we'll see. We'll make this a fun question, and if there's extra time, we'll ask another fun question. But what is your like favorite specific memory at SSP? Like some people are like, oh, I had to walk 10 minutes back to the dorm in the rain and it was crazy, or like something a little bit more specific that you like still remember to this day. It's like funny or impactful or something like that.
For me, I guess it was playing ping pong because in my program. We were like there were two kids who were really good at ping pong because one of them was like really good at tennis, or both of them were really good at tennis. So I like sucked compared to them, but it was really fun to get better because I like playing ping pong and we would make out time to play ping pong. And I had a lot of fun playing ping pong, and I beat one of them once, so I was really happy with myself with that.
For the 4th of July at IU, we the faculty kind of had us work a little bit in the morning, and then the rest of the day was kind of set aside for activities. So some of us played badminton outside, and some of us were watching movies, and we had like ice cream sundaes. They bought those for us, and we were able to make them, and it was really fun. And then at night, we kind of lit sparklers out outside our dorm, and that was probably one of the most memorable days. And also, we had one field trip where all the Indiana-based programs like IU Biochem and the Purdue Biochem and Genomics programs all met up at a state park, and it was really fun because 4 SSP programs were there at the same time, and we got to meet each other.
One really fun moment I remember was during the program during observation nights. Uh, there's a little bit of um, kind of downtime between when your team's supposed to go and observe and then when other teams go and observe. And during that time, I remember in the dorm lounge, somebody brought out a chessboard and a box of Oreos. And there it was my team and the few other teams that were there, and even some other teams who had like finished their observation nights but just came out to hang out with everybody, just eating Oreos and playing chess and having like a little chess tournament there. Really, really late while waiting to go up and observe. And it was just awesome moment of just getting to connect with everybody and hang out while we're also doing the research for SSP and connecting with each other.
I think this was our first field trip. It was to this place called Indiana Beach, which wasn't a beach, it was like an amusement park. And we were all really excited, but once we got there, first of all, the weather was like really cold and gloomy. And the amusement park was really old and like run down. The roller coasters were like all cranky. I was really scared for my life, but and then it started raining. And I just thought, oh, the day's gonna like this is all just ruined. But towards the end, like I realized I actually had so much fun, despite all the mud and rain and whatever, because of how much like we got to spend time with our friends and we made the best of it either way. And it was a really nice start to the program.
Yeah, my favorite part was when our cohort was playing Assassin, where you get assigned a person and you're supposed to clip them with a like clothespin. So on that day, we to avoid getting tagged, we decided that we would stay in the lecture hall to eat lunch, so we weren't going to be like vulnerable to being attacked. So we had like the few people who had already gotten out to go get like lunch for everyone else, and we just had it in the lecture hall, and it was like a really nice bonding moment.
For me, it was pretty simple, but we had a lot of fun in the last couple, I say probably last 2 weeks, where almost every other night we would be going outside and across the entire campus playing this big game of tag. And it got really, really chaotic. Having 36 people running across a college campus playing tag and hiding from each other in the middle of the night. It was chaotic, but it was a lot of fun. And it was probably one of my favorite memories of the program.
Awesome. Well, thank all of our alumni for being here to share your experience with folks interested in applying or thinking about applying or currently applying. And then thank you to all um, potential participants who are here on the call. I hope this was helpful. If you liked just this opportunity to engage with alums and you haven't heard of the Discord, you can go to that apply page that I showed you a little bit earlier, which is where that big orange button is. And there's a link to the Discord. I also put it in the chat. And that's like a good opportunity to just like ask any questions that you have. Not only are the alums there to answer any of your kind of like fun questions about what is life like, what did you take away from it, but staff are on there as well. So if you want some questions answered that are more about admissions, I know there are several in the chat about like things like what we're looking for or how do I do XX component of the transcript. Me, Caesar, and our enrollment coordinator, Casey, are always there monitoring that to answer questions and let you know what your next steps are in order to get those sorts of things answered. But yeah, feel free to keep in touch. And thank you all for being here. And we hope you have a great weekend. So thank you so much.